Are you like me? Have you been really worried about that weight? You know, no one seems to have a good video about it on YouTube. How do you solve that weight? There seems to be no good solution, you know. There's a lot of weight. It's really bulky. And through COVID, you know, I haven't seen it get any better, but I don't know. We're gonna have to do something about all that wood platform plywood weight. Because this new design, if you wanted a lightweight solution, you're gonna love it. So let's check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach, and here we talk about overlanding in tech, and today we're going to be talking about this new platform that I have been designing and building over the past few months, and we're going to really walk through every step of the process and how you could build one just like this. And so this is going to be a more of a high-end platform. I don't really think that this may fit everybody's needs, but honestly, I think the bells and whistles and everything I've thought through on this are great, and they're going to be super utilitarian. So stick around for all of the different build videos, because I'm going to really walk through every single detail. So there's going to be 4 stages. The first stage is we're going to talk about the aluminum extrusion exoskeleton. Basically, it's all of the framing that we use for this platform, and that's what this black aluminum strips are that you may see in the camera frame. This is the aluminum exoskeleton, I like to refer to it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to actually cut out all the wood that we want in some, you know, best practices, and what you can basically do to create all of the wood components of this platform. So in the third video, we're going to talk about how you can basically assemble all of it together, sort of some of the things that I was thinking through as we were designing it, the price breakdown, everything like that. And then the final video is going to be it installed in the 4Runner with it completely configured out, loaded up, and how I would have it in the vehicle on a trip. And then I'll even show how it's going to all pack up so that when I put it in my vehicle, it's going to be basically low profile and take up as little space as possible. Ultimately, the point of me redesigning my platform is I wanted something that would fit in my vehicle that would be all-encompassing. So the sleeping platform, the drawer, everything is all one unit that I basically drop into the vehicle. It's going to bolt into 2 locations, and then it's going to basically have turnbuckles on either side that are going to go near the back of the 4Runner where there are 2 anchoring points. At the very end of this build series, I'm going to have plans available on my website. So if you want to check those out and you want to build something like this, make sure to subscribe, like the video, because that helps me make more content like this, and that's how I am able to provide these plans to you all. So stay tuned, and once I post that final video in the build series, those plans will be live on the website. So with that being said, let's jump right into kind of talking about the aluminum extrusions, how to build with them, you know, roughly what goes into designing the use of them, and yeah, let's see how I did this thing. Okay, so I just decided to throw some parts out here just to kind of give a good introduction, but basically what we're gonna do is, so my platform has the main area, and then the part that will slide out from above the drawer and will go over the middle row of seats in the 4Runner. It has 2 different sections. One is smaller that slides out over the 40% seat, and then another section is larger that slides out over the 60% seat. So there's the drawer in the back, and then at the very top of the big drawer box, there's these 2 slides that come out, and they're going to be the front section. And you'll do a couple things to attach it, but that's kind of the overall plan, so to speak. Before I build that small slide out section, just to demonstrate how you build with aluminum extrusions,
I'm just gonna kind of give a little bit of an introduction. So basically, you can buy these aluminum extrusions in any size that you like. And I chose to buy 2020 aluminum extrusions, which basically is 0.75 inches by 0.75 inches, or 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. And then everything has a T-slot channel. So you can buy lots of different little mounting hardware components that will slide into these channels, like these 90-degree brackets, which basically will slide in, and then you use an Allen wrench to tighten it down, and then doesn't really turn. So that's basically what you do. And then to connect two different components, you can get different kinds. What you could do is you could take a 90-degree bracket like this, and you could rotate it, and then you could tighten this down, and then take another piece of aluminum extrusion, put in a T-nut like this, slide it in, and then, you know, thread a bolt through here, and then there's your 90-degree connection. That's one way to do it. There's so many different ways to assemble aluminum extrusions. The way I chose was to use these hidden L brackets. So basically you slide it into one side, and then you can connect these in any spot you want, and it's all hidden. So there's basically more space in the opening. So I don't know, I think these are probably slightly stronger, but it's hard to say. I think these are effective too. And if you look, see how this has a cutoff right here and here, but it doesn't on this side. So you can slide this all the way through and it will move, but if you rotate it 90 degrees and you slide it the other way, it's gonna hit. So it does have some little structural components that are really well thought out, and the cross-sectional area of the actual mounting component is designed for a T-slot channel. So it's all proprietary, and you have to pick and choose all these different parts. So that's basically how I assembled the majority of the aluminum extrusion. That's kind of how you do it. And then once you tighten down something like this, I bought a lot of these tabs to help attach a piece of plywood to. So if you have a piece of plywood like this, then you can line it up with your aluminum extrusion, and then there's a hole right here, so you could put in a screw, a nut, whatever your choice would be. I have these special nuts that have teeth on them, and they dig into the plywood. So basically what I do is I'm gonna line up everything on a piece of plywood where I want it exactly. I'm gonna drill a hole through this tab the size of the sheath or the cylinder for this. And then this will thread up into the hole, and then I'll be able to put this bolt through my little bracket into the plywood, and this will be embedded in the plywood. So then I will just take my bolt and then tighten it down in the nut within this plywood. And just to kind of explain a little bit better how this nut will grab, when you drill the hole through, only this center portion will fit through your pre-drilled hole. The rest of this will dig into the plywood around, and it will act like a washer and pull on the wood. So that's how it works. And I basically just have a big bag of those so that I can attach all my plywood to the aluminum extrusion exoskeleton. So now we're basically gonna assemble the slide out section that's for the smaller section of the middle row, the 40% seat. So we're gonna make some space here. And how I'm doing this is, imagine you have like a long slide out with a bunch of different cross braces. It's gonna be basically like this. So you'll have 3 different supports. We'll put plywood on top of this, and that will be the platform. And then I'm gonna have feet in the front that go down that help support this. So now basically when you're assembling the entire thing, it's really important that you pre-thread and you pre-install all of the mounting hardware that you're going to need, because most of the time you aren't going to be able to drop in hardware in between two things. So like for instance, these two are right here. I can't just put this T-nut in there. Now they make special T-nuts that you can drop in there, but I don't think they're quite as sturdy as these T-nuts that you have to pre-thread. So I think you can use different kinds. There's definitely options, but it's smarter to just line up and thread everything the first time, and then you can go after that and tighten up everything. These L brackets that I was talking about, they have little screws in them that you basically tighten down once they're in place. So this screw will push out the back side and press against it. So you slide it in and then you tighten that down and it pulls the L bracket this way, pushes the screw against the T channel, and that's how it tightens down. So this slide is longer than what can fit in the camera frame, but I've got about a 28.5-inch piece of aluminum extrusion here, and I'm going to thread a couple of different pieces. So there's going to be 3 cross braces, so I'm making sure this L bracket is oriented properly, which allows me to thread it into the middle. And then I'm going to put 2 of these brackets on either side. And I've pre-assembled a lot of this hardware just to make it quicker, but a lot of times you'd have to, you know, put this T-nut on the back of this and put a bolt through and everything. It all comes as individual components. So it is time consuming, but I think it's worth it. So then we'll put an L bracket like this on the end, and we're gonna put another one on this end, just like this. Okay, so now this one is done. We're gonna take one of my cross beam supports. We're going to slide it right onto those 2 pieces. Then we're going to use another one of these supports for the plywood. And I've got one right here as well. And we're going to set that up on this other piece of 28.5-inch aluminum extrusion. We don't want to forget to thread our center support L brackets. So let's do that, just like this. Oh, that one doesn't have pre-threaded screws. So slide those to the middle, just like that. Then we're going to thread on our other 90-degree bracket, which is going to be for the plywood. Then we'll thread this L bracket on the end, thread this L bracket on the end. We've got this roughly laid out properly. Now what we need to do is we're going to put these on each end of this 28.5-inch piece. I have a bracket that goes right here, and I have another one that's going to go on this end. Now one end is going to connect to the legs, the other end is going to connect to the original platform section that contains the drawer. So on the side that contains the drawer, I need to put on 6 nuts because there's going to be 3 nuts per bracket, and I don't want to have to take this apart, and it's going to fit inside these 2 28-inch support bars. And so once this is tightened down, I can't get to the T-slot track anymore, if that makes sense. So basically on the top here, this is capped, and then on the bottom down here, this is capped. So there's no way to access that once I tighten it down, so I have to pre-thread all 6 of these nuts. This side has basically the identical thing, but we don't have to put these nuts in like we did on the other side. So here's the less exciting part, but I've found that if you pre-thread these screws in these L brackets, it's so much easier to tighten them down when they're in place, rather than having to thread every single one of these screws when they're in one of these corner spots. So I just take these and I spend 5 minutes pre-threading all of them, and then that saves me a lot of time down the road. You wouldn't think you would use a lot of these L brackets, but they seem to add up really quickly. So anytime you have a center support that's in the middle of an aluminum extrusion, I add 2. I don't know if that's actually necessary or not. Someone comment down below if that's necessary, but I think it just adds a stronger connection there. Like I could probably just do 1 And there would be a support there, but I've just added 2 because I feel like it's additional support for not that much extra. But I don't know, with how many of these L brackets I've had to buy, I feel like I've used over 100 for the whole entire setup. And so maybe I would have actually saved a fair amount of money if I had just done 1 at every join. But I already put them all on, so no going back. These need to be touching wherever the support is going to touch the ground. So we've got 2 of these and they're just gonna set right on the seat. So I'm going to set this on my desk so it has a flat area to be trued up against, and then pinch everything there. So that's in the corner. It is very strong. So, and make sure to press the Allen wrench all the way in, because if you don't, I think sometimes it doesn't tighten down quite as well. I'm going to use my desk again to square this all up. Also, the more you use these Allen wrenches, I think the more they round out because they're pretty cheap. So there's like a new Allen wrench that comes with like every set of brackets. So I've just been switching to new Allen wrenches every now and then because I don't want to round out these screws. So just a random little pro tip.
So look at how much structural support I have on this part in the platform. And this is super supportive. So basically all I needed to do for these slides was mount a leg right here, and then I did a small frame on the bottom of it and then cut a piece of wood to fit on top. And then I notched these out because basically there's going to be T-nuts inside of here. So whenever I want to set up my platform, it'll be 3 bolts here, 3 bolts here, and it'll mount right up to my platform. So super fast setup and easily able to tear down. Now you may be thinking, well, Zach, why didn't you put these legs in the middle? You know, maybe that would help support the weight a little better. But the thing is they have to be on the end so that this will completely slide into the inside of the platform. So that's what I had to do. And while it may not seem like quite the perfect design, it supports my weight perfectly fine. And the bulk of your center of gravity is going to land on the platform aluminum extrusion itself. I'm not too worried about supporting a ton of weight with this because I think basically your weight is going to land roughly around this section of the platform where I have this reinforced top part, and then there's a leg here. There's going to be a leg right below it where the drawer connects to, and then there's also those legs at the corners in the front of the platform. So when you're laying on here, I think the majority of the weight will be plenty supported through this portion of the aluminum extrusion exoskeleton. So like I was saying with how this sleeping platform basically entirely fits inside of the enclosure, essentially what is going on is we have a drawer that's going right here, and then above the drawer towards the front, if this is the back of the trunk, this is the front of the trunk, and these will slide in. So when you drop the seats down, you can pull out each section for the platform. And so basically there's just a couple of pieces of aluminum extrusions that go across that help support these above the drawer. So the drawer is completely functional when these are being stored inside of it. However, if you want to use them, all you do is you take one and you slide it out, and then it will attach right here. Same with this one. You take it, slide it out, and it will attach right here. So the purpose for having 2 separate ones rather than one is when they slide out, they can spread out a little bit, and it helps to provide more coverage on the front of the vehicle. The second reason that I really liked having those little inserts is you can pick one or the other. So if I just want to have a single bed set up, I can have the other side slide out or stay in. So if I maybe wanted to have a side table for a single bed, I could slide it out. Or if I have a third passenger that I need to carry for some reason, I could slide that part in, leave my bed set up, and flip up one side of the setup. Now another benefit to this design was I went with these honestly really high quality feeling ball bearing, weight bearing drawer slides. So these are 250 pound weight bearing drawer slides, and they're not locking. But the reason that I didn't get locking ones is you pay extra for that, and I knew that my handle that was gonna be on the front of the drawer that you grab and pull on, I knew that that was gonna be locking. So whenever I pulled the drawer out, I knew that it would stay out, and then when I was done with it, I would push it back in and it would lock into place. And so that was basically my thinking, and it helps save a decent amount of money. So even if you're not planning to build an aluminum extruded platform like this, it's really handy to just use this type of drawer slide and then a locking handle, because it helps you lock with a key the whole drawer closed, and then you can also basically save on some of the money of having to buy locking drawer slides. So I found that worked out quite well. So if you look in here, you can set the height of your drawer slide to different areas within reason, but you're gonna need these vertical bars in order to mount this piece. Now, this front part, you would think maybe you could connect this all the way up to the front piece. However, with my design, I have the latch of the drawer catching on this top aluminum extrusion. And so if you have the whole entire drawer do that, then you just need to mount this part of your slide accordingly on your drawer so that it pushes far enough back. So that's why these are set back a little bit, because how I attached my slide to my drawer is used so that it will latch properly on top. So along the top, I tried to space these out appropriately so that I could have a decent amount of structural support along the top for the top piece of plywood. 90-degree anchor points, and this is where the top piece of plywood is going to screw down. Since the top piece of plywood anchors in to multiple points on top of the whole aluminum extrusion exoskeleton, I think that that's going to help snug everything together on top. And I just think that these aluminum extruded bars are very strong, and so when you have all of the weight dispersed across them, it should work fantastically well. Additionally, if you see back here, I have these supports for these brackets back here. These brackets are what's going to help hook up one of the front sections. And so I added these crossbars here to be additional support. Now, in addition to having all of this support on the top, you have to take into account when and where you need different layers within your aluminum extrusions. If you notice, we have this piece here, which is structurally holding the slide. We have another one back here, and you could add a third if you were really trying to beef this up, but I think that 2 will be plenty. And then there's an additional section here because we have these little supports. And since we have crossbars halfway up to hold those pieces of platform that slide in above the drawer, we needed to add this midsection so that there's a place for these crossbars to mount into. And then in addition, I have these little stubby legs, which I've put below each one of these top crossbars because I think it'll help structurally hold them up. Rather than putting it in the middle of them, where then these 2 points could sag over that structural spot, I've put them right below where this bar is. And if they aren't quite lined up, that's just because I haven't slid it over and tightened it down yet, because like I said, a lot of this is not completely tightened down yet. Next, if we look at the back, this is that large opening where I said that there would be platform sections sliding into. The platform for the 60% seat will mount in right here. And to just give a demonstration, I have them assembled already. So this is going to hook in just like this, and it should be about the same height as the top of the exoskeleton enclosure. Now you may notice on the sides, I've added some of these tabs. This was when I was planning on adding side panels to this, and I really don't think they're necessary. If you're really worried in your setup about things falling in there, then maybe add those. I'm not, just due to how I plan to pack this in the vehicle. So I just left these sides blank, and these are really just extra. And these little connectors are not expensive, but they're also not perfectly cheap, or, you know, something you can just negate from your budget. So if you don't think you need these, I would not purchase them. Additionally, I have these little side hooks, which I think will be really handy for using paracord or a small bungee if you wanted to anchor things to the aluminum extrusion. That's one thing that's great about aluminum extrusions, is there's so many different places where you can mount things. So in building with aluminum extrusions, you have to plan in advance for everything. And so when you're assembling this whole entire cage is fairly loose still, because I still haven't completely finished putting everything together on this. And you don't want to tighten everything down until you absolutely know that you're done. And so some of these bars slide around, but most of them I've kind of started to tighten up because I'm finishing up assembly. So I hope you thought that that was helpful. It's really hard to basically assemble this in front of you because it takes hours to put all of this together. It's not very simple, and you have to pre-think every single piece that you mount into place. So assembling this takes some time, but it's definitely worth it. And so really my biggest recommendations would be, make sure you assemble everything in the correct order, and think about it when you're assembling things. Some parts can also be assembled, and then you can assemble individual pieces. So for example, you know, you could maybe assemble the entire top panel of this. So like this crossbar, this crossbar, this crossbar, maybe that can all be assembled together, and then you can do the sides and put it on after that. You know, doing things like that to plan ahead when building with aluminum extrusions is really helpful. Additionally, just don't tighten anything down. It's really not going to benefit you. And while it is frustrating to move the structure when it's all loose, you can typically like tighten just the corners, and hopefully that holds the majority of it together so that you can move it somewhere, but you don't have to basically take a bunch of steps backward anytime you need to adjust something where you need to loosen it. So those are some of my suggestions, and I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned for the next video in the series, where we're going to talk about all of the wood paneling that goes on here, the rough dimensions of that wood, and kind of what I decided to do with each panel, whether it be bed lining or staining or whatnot like that. And hopefully I can give you some tips and tricks into how to build a proper drawer so that this will fit well. And honestly, I think that this video series can hopefully be helpful for a lot of you out there that really want a nice, high quality platform system that looks professional and will be really functional and sturdy, and will basically endure through all of the adventures that you want to have and use it for. So thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you found this video helpful, please give it a like. And if you want to stay tuned to all of this content, follow me on Instagram and subscribe to the channel. And make sure to turn on that notification bell, because it's going to notify you when I post new videos. And the recommended page has been kind of a funny thing with YouTube the past few months. So if you're not seeing my videos, chances are you need to turn notifications on. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.